my name is Shaya. Today is the day number 8 of lockdown level 3, and right now we are taking you to COVID-19 status update.
And as always, we focus mainly on South Africa. My name is Lindo Koza. Of course, these are the statistics in the country as we speak. 48,285 confirmed cases in the country. Recoveries are 24,364, while we have 998 deaths.
Now moving on to provincial statistics. Western Cape stands at 31,824, Gauteng 5,946, Eastern Cape is 5,974. Then moving on to KwaZulu-Natal is 3,108, Limpopo is 227, Northwest is 523, Mpumalanga 189, and finally Northern Cape is 114. Unknown cases is 19. Those are the total number of tests conducted, stand at 920,064.
Remember guys, in the case of you showing any symptoms that are said to be COVID-19 or coronavirus related, that is if you have a cough, if in the case of you having fever or shortness of breath, do make sure that you contact the COVID-19 helpline and they will guide you into what you need to do. And I'm very aware that today, which is the 8th of June, learners are going back to school. So we do wonder how schools are receiving their learners. Do they have all the protective gear that they need? Are our learners or our children going to be catered for in a proper way?
Definitely, I still think this is a smart move for the government because children do need to catch up with the workload that has that is upon them right now, and we still are to see how the way that they're handling it now. We still are to see whether or not it is effective. We may voice out our opinions, but time will tell.
Time will definitely tell. Do not forget also to share your opinions on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, and as well on Instagram. In the case of you knowing of anything that is happening in and around us, do make sure that you also call us or contact us on our social media platforms.
Now continue to stay tuned for more news updates right after the break.
Thank you for staying tuned. And now on your top stories on your national news, there's been a spike in alcohol-related crimes since South Africa moved to level 3, the nationwide lockdown. This has sparked concerns that the lifting of the ban may reverse the gains made so far in the fight against coronavirus pandemic. The largest hospital in Africa, the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, is one of the health facilities that are treating COVID-19 patients. Law enforcement agencies, on the other hand, have reiterated that those caught violating lockdown regulations will be brought to book.
Announcement that prompted a wave of celebrations, many eagerly awaiting for the 1st of June to end over 60 days of sobriety. The snaking queues on a brisk Monday morning and songs of celebrations heard from customers already anticipating the first sip of their cold beverages. The largest hospital in Africa, Chris Hani Baragwanath, is one of the hospitals treating COVID-19 patients. It now has had to deal with trauma-related cases, with the number increasing since Monday.
The numbers are definitely increasing. I mean, as I've said previously, the 31st of May, I mean, we saw about 66 in total trauma patients. But the 1st of June, within 24 hours after the alcohol became available, we saw the numbers picking up. I mean, the number almost doubled.
This marks the first weekend that South Africans have been allowed to buy alcohol since the lockdown. Law enforcement agencies have still warned that those caught with alcohol on their person will have infringed lockdown regulations.
More on our national news. Churches resume under lockdown level 3, while some places of worship are operating again under level 3. Many churches remain closed. Some of the churches in KwaZulu-Natal choose to remain closed on the first weekend where religious gatherings are permitted by the government. The president, however, warned that this should happen under strict conditions, including the wearing of masks at all times and restrictions. He also included that churches that violate these regulations would be closed down.
Churches will also be open under level 3. So that changed the regulations that we need to give to the nation, because we then needed to include in the regulations the churches. That's why we then postponed our press briefing for Wednesday to Thursday to allow us to also include the churches in the regulations. That will indeed bring South Africa to level 3.
More on your national news. People around the world are standing up against racism, and South Africans are joining in. Pupils at Bishop's College and Herschel Girls High School in Cape Town staged a peaceful protest to highlight racism and discrimination last week, Friday.
Moving on, more on our national news. 95% of schools resume today. Parents and teachers unions have been concerned about whether South African schools are ready to reopen. Monday, 8 June, Minister of Basic Education Angie Motshekga said on Sunday, 7 June, hosted a media briefing to inform the public on the readiness of schools to resume today. The minister said based on critical report, it was resolved that provinces who should use this week of the 1st to the 8th of June to sort out all outstanding issues. She also added that a school that is not compliant will not be able to open, and also that it is gratifying indeed that provinces stepped up and all prerequisites were attempted during this mop-up week.
Members of the media and officials from the department. Indeed, Chair, the coronavirus has brought a lot of trauma and anxiety to all of us as a nation and the rest of the world. And it has indeed turned our lives upside down and brought lots of anxiety. And since we started planning for the reopening of schools, we have been privileged by receiving many representations from parents and different organizations. And I must say, we highly appreciate the support and the guidance that we've been receiving from the public, and for that we are highly grateful.
We must appreciate the assistance that we're getting from the neighboring mining company, Inyanda. They have committed to contribute another 10 mobile classrooms, and 2 of them are now being donated by Eskom. Over and above that, they will be drilling the borehole tomorrow, and then we will be doing the fencing. Relatively within this week, we will be completing all those nitty-gritties that needs to be put in place, so that we ensure that there is conformity in that regard. So as you see, these children, all of them are from Mukibe school. They will be landing within this week in this Mukhalidwa school, and as of next week, we are anticipating taking them to Clarnet. And of course, the 10 children that are residing around the farm area will also be schooling in the very same school. We will be transporting them through the scholar transport system. We had discussions with parents. They have indicated their dissatisfaction for the relocation, because amongst the other problems that we had, it had to do with the CPA and also the parents not willing for their children to relocate, because they're trying to protect and preserve the legacy of their farm school.
That is all for our national news. Now moving on to our international stories for the day.
On your international stories, Taho Alexandra Kueng and Thomas Lane appeared before a judge in the same Hennepin County District courtroom Thursday afternoon.
A Hennepin County judge set bail at $1 million each for the 3 fired Minneapolis police officers accused of aiding and abetting in the death of George Floyd. WCCO's Kate Raddatz was in the courtroom when one of the attorneys made a fiery argument defending his client.
Can you describe your client's state of mind over the past several days?
Not good.
Tu Tao, J. Alexander King, and Thomas Lane appeared before a judge in the same Hennepin County District courtroom Thursday afternoon as armed Minnesota National Guard members acted as security outside. The 3 fired Minneapolis police officers are charged with aiding and abetting second-degree unintentional murder. The defendants appeared in court wearing orange jumpsuits and masks. At one point, King's attorney asked the judge to set bail based on his client, not an institution that has lost its guidance.
3 cops are trying to restrain somebody, and one doesn't agree. Well, that one cop should go beat up the other 2 cops and let the guy go. That's absurd.
Gray also said Lane tried CPR on Floyd in the ambulance.
Pounding on this guy, trying to revive him. Where's the willful intent?
The attorneys for the other 2 ex-cops did not comment after court.
More on your international stories. Scientists in Australia and Norway are hoping that a new biotechnology can assist in getting the COVID-19 vaccine available for all by the end of 2021. These researchers are joining forces in an attempt to mass produce a coronavirus vaccine by the end of next year. Jane Halton, chair of the Norway-based Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, said scientists were now arranging a diverse group of test candidates to ensure as many shots on goal as possible.
Finding an effective vaccine is the holy grail in preventing another coronavirus pandemic. And today, the Australian-designed vaccine moved an important step closer.
The team's been preparing for this moment for almost a decade.
The funding deal with CSL and the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations means the first human trials can begin as soon as next month. 120 people will be tested to see if the vaccine's safe. All going well, 1,000 people will then trial the vaccine next year, with the hope of making 1 million doses available soon after.
Obviously, the team's extremely confident in the technology we've produced. We already know that this vaccine produces high levels of antibody that can neutralise the virus.
CSL and the University of Queensland have a good history. Together they produced the cervical cancer vaccine. That took 15 years. The COVID-19 research is being fast-tracked.
We recognise this is high risk, but the science is very strong. If we're successful, we know we can scale this up and make millions of doses.
Worldwide, there are more than 100 COVID-19 vaccines being developed, with a handful already in human trials. So far, only researchers from China have published results of their vaccine trials on patients in a medical journal.
Now, Sweden has kept pubs, restaurants and shops open throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. The more open approach is attracting growing numbers of British and European tourists who've broken national guidelines advising against non-essential global travel in search of a beer or even a haircut.
Still on your international news, Black Lives Matter's protests were in clash with officers in Sydney's central stations as others surrounded cop shops in Brisbane and Melbourne with tensions boiling over. Thousands of protesters marched for Black Lives Matter's rallies across Australian cities on Saturday, calling for an end to Aboriginal deaths in custody and are in solidarity with George Floyd. What started as a peaceful protest ended up in chaos at the station as swelling crowds were trapped in the station and began taunting police officers.
Forming a line to break up a small but highly charged group. One sprays into the crowd, leaving at least half a dozen people needing treatment. Scenes in stark contrast to the earlier march, which was given last-minute authorisation by the New South Wales Court of Appeal.
This march is authorised. It's authorised.
Defying pleas by police, the Premier and the Prime Minister, they legally gathered. At 4:32 p.m, they took a knee to commemorate 432 Aboriginal deaths in custody. In Melbourne, more than 10,000 protesters defied strict police orders to take part. Health authorities insisting lives have been put at risk in the time of COVID-19.
This is a much bigger problem than a few hundred people dying from coronavirus.
Organisers will be fined more than $1,600 each by Victoria Police for breaching directions of the Chief Health Officer. But officers were generally pleased with public behaviour. In Brisbane, in the middle of a pandemic, an estimated 30,000 stood shoulder to shoulder. There was no anger, no violence, instead pleas for peace, as police handed out face masks, all there for the same reason.
Moving right along to our local story, Mpumalanga was the only province that had not deaths linked to COVID-19. The Health Ministry on Sunday night also confirmed there are more than 48,000 infections in the country. But Mpumalanga has recorded its first death, which makes all the provinces having one death at least each.
Yes, true.
Now, thank you so much for tuning in to our stories on NEWSHORN TV. I am Bidokoza.
And I am Batanasha. Be sure to stay tuned for more news updates tomorrow. Same time, same place. NEWSHORN TV.